She was sent to the stream before the sun rose, not to fetch water, to disappear. The clay pot on her head was cracked, the path through the forest was dark, and the woman who sent her there, the woman who slept in her mother's bed, was already locking the door behind her. But what Victoria did not know, what she could not have known, was that a prince was riding through that same forest that morning, and the moment his horse stopped at the edge of that stream, everything changed. For Victoria, for Amara, for the whole kingdom. Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe so you never miss a story, and tell us from where you are watching from to understand how this story began. You must first understand the world that Amara lived in. The village of Emeka sat between two rivers, surrounded by red earth and tall mango trees, whose roots had been drinking from the soil for over 100 years. It was a quiet village, the kind where people knew each other's grandmothers, where children played in dusty courtyards until the fireflies came out, where the smell of palm soup in the evening meant that the world was still turning the way it should. Amara's father, Samuel, was a quiet man with a wide forehead and a soft voice. He had been a good man, once a carpenter, whose hands shaped wood into beautiful things, but grief had carved him hollow. Amara's mother, Chidinama, had died 7 years ago from a fever that came in the rainy season and would not leave. She had gone in the night, so gently that Samuel only knew she was gone because her hand grew cold in his. He had been alone after that. Just Samuel and Amara, just a father and a daughter, surviving together in a house that still smelled of Chidinma's cooking, oil, and the lavender she used to press between the pages of her Bible. Amara had been 8 when her mother died. Now she was 17, and she carried her mother's face like a gift wide, dark eyes that held everything they saw, a mouth that curved toward kindness naturally, skin the deep, warm color of the earth. After rain, people who had known Chidinma would sometimes stop when they saw Amara on the road and stare for a moment too long, the way you stare at a photograph of someone you once loved. Victoria had arrived 3 years ago. She had come from a neighboring village with 2 daughters of her own, Esther and Ngozi, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Samuel had married her because loneliness is its own kind of sickness, and because Victoria had told him, with great conviction, that she loved children and that Amara would be like her own daughter. That was the first lie. Victoria's house, the house she had taken over like a vine takes over a wall, was a place of careful no bruises, no shouting in public, nothing that a neighbor could point to and say, "There, that is the proof." Instead it was this. Amara's food was always served last and always less. Amara's chores began before sunrise and ended after dark. Amara was never permitted to sit at the table during a meal if Victoria's daughters were still eating. Amara was given her mother's old wrapper, the beautiful blue one with golden thread, and watched, silently, as Victoria cut it into rags. And through all of it, Samuel said nothing, not because he did not see, but because Victoria had also learned that a man's silence can be purchased with the right combination of warm food and cold eyes. Amara endured. She endured with the particular dignity of a person who carries something precious inside them and refuses to let the world take it. She sang while she swept. She touched the mango tree in the courtyard each morning, the way her mother had taught her open palm against the bark. A whispered good morning. She watched the birds. She memorized the shapes of clouds. She did not know that her endurance had been seen, not by her father, not by the neighbors, by someone else entirely. The morning it happened, Victoria woke before the cock crowed. This was not unusual. What was unusual was the expression on her face, a tight, purposeful look, like a woman who had made a decision in the dark hours and was now committed to carrying it out. She shook Amara's shoulder hard, hard enough to bruise. "Get up," she said. "The stream." Amara blinked into the darkness. "Now, the path is not light." "Yet, did I ask about the path?" Victoria set the cracked clay pot on the mat beside Amara's head. "Take this. Go. Come back when it is full." Amara rose without another word. She did not know, could not know, that the reason Victoria was sending her now, this early, in the dark, was not about water at all. Victoria's brother was arriving from the city that morning. He was a man of some wealth, and had expressed interest in taking a young wife. Victoria had seen how he looked at Amara once, 2 years ago, at a family gathering, a look that was too long. Tohu me serene, and she had seen. Behind it, the opportunity she had been building toward. She wanted Amara gone from the house before her brother arrived. Gone permanently, married off into a life far away from this village, far away from Samuel's property, far away from anything that might one day be called an inheritance. The cracked pot was deliberate. It would not hold water. Amara would spend hours at the stream trying to carry it back, trying again, failing, and by the time she returned, if she returned, everything would already have been arranged. This was Victoria's plan, but the forest had its own plans. The path to the stream wound through a section of trees so old their canopy blocked all but silver threads of early light. Amara walked it with bare feet that knew every route, every smooth stone, every dip in the earth. She could have walked it blind. In a way, she had walked it blind many times, eyes blurred with exhaustion, or tears she refused to let fall. She heard the stream before she saw it, that particular rushing sound, cold and constant, that had been her comfort since childhood. Her mother used to bring her here. The water does not remember yesterday, Chidinma had said once, crouching beside the bank, letting the current run through her fingers. Every morning, it is new. You can be that way too. Amara set the cracked pot down at the edge of the water. She knelt, and then, a sound. Not the stream, not birds. Hooves. She spun around. The horse was enormous and white. Not the tired, dusty horses that pulled farm carts in the village, but a high-bred animal with a crest on its neck and eyes that caught the early light like polished stones. And on its back sat a young man in simple riding clothes. Dark green, no decoration clothes. That would not have told you anything about him if it weren't for the straightness of his back, the quiet authority in the way he held the reins, and the gold ring on his right hand that bore the royal seal of the House of Ez, Prince Adrian of Ez. He was 23 years old. He rode out alone in the early mornings, because it was the only time in his life that felt genuinely his. No advisers, no petitioners, no mother pressing names and faces at him across the breakfast table, just the forest, the horse, the cool air, before the world woke up. He had not expected to find anyone at the stream. He certainly had not expected to find her. Time stopped. The world stopped. Everything stopped. Amara stood frozen, one hand still holding the cracked pot, water from the stream running over her wrist in thin cold lines. She stared at him. He stared at her. The horse tossed its head and sent a sound through the silence that broke the spell. "I am sorry," Adrian said. His voice was lower than she expected, and unexpectedly careful, as if he were choosing words the way a man chooses where to step in unfamiliar terrain. "I did not know anyone came here this early." "I did not know anyone came here at all," Amara said before she could stop herself. A pause? Then he smiled, a real smile, the kind that moved his whole face. "Neither did I." It dismounted. She watched him, wary. Every instinct sharpened by years of learning that kindness from the powerful always had a price somewhere she couldn't see yet. But he only walked to the edge of the stream, several feet away from her, and crouched the way a curious person crouches. Not the posture of authority, but of genuine attention. He looked at the water. "Why is your pot cracked?" The question was so direct and so specific that Amara laughed, a small sound, immediately swallowed, as if she'd startled herself. "I was sent with it this way," she said. He looked up at her. Something changed in his expression. Not pity, something more careful than pity. "Sent by whom?" She hesitated. The morning light was strengthening now, filtering green and gold through the canopy, and it fell across his face with the impartiality of all natural things, illuminating him just as it illuminated the roots of the trees, the rocks in the stream, the cracked rim of the useless pot. He was just a person in that light. A person with an open face and a question in his eyes. "My stepmother," Amara said at last. His expression did not perform sympathy. He simply nodded, as if storing that information somewhere. "You live in the village below." "Emeka?" "Yes." "Your father's name?" "Samuel." "Samuel Okafor." Something shifted in his face, a recognition she couldn't read. He stood slowly. Brushing his hands on his riding clothes, he reached into the saddlebag on the horse and withdrew a clay water vessel. A good one, sealed at the seam, clearly meant for long rides. He held it out to her. "Take this one back," he said. Amara stared at it. "I will not take charity," she said quietly. "It is not charity." He said it simply, without offense. "I have another, and I will be back at this stream tomorrow." He looked at her with eyes that held a question he did not yet ask. "Will you?" She went back the next morning. She told herself it was because the stream was her stream, because she had been coming here since she was a child, because she had no reason to let a stranger change her habits. But she rose earlier than usual. She rebraided her hair. He was there when she arrived, already dismounted, already sitting on the flat rock by the water with his back to a tree root, as if he had been there for a while. He had brought 2 cups, the small, carved wooden kind, and a cloth wrapped around something that turned out to be groundnut cake, still warm. "You came," he said. "I always come here," she said. "I told you." He handed her a cup. She sat down on the grass, not on the rock, beside him, because there were lines she was still drawing, and they drank from the stream together in a silence that was remarkably comfortable. It went on like this for 11 mornings. On the 2nd morning, he told her his name was Adrian. He did not tell her more than that, and she did not ask, though something in the way he said it carefully, without the title, told her he was guarding something. On the 4th morning, she told him about her mother, about the mango tree, and the open palm, and the water that does not remember yesterday. He listened without speaking, which was the best way to listen to something like that. On the 6th morning, he told her about his own mother, Queen Patricia, and stopped himself mid-sentence, as if he had said too much. Amara noted the name, filed it away without meaning to. On the 8th morning, she came to the stream and found him standing very still, watching a thin line of smoke rising from the direction of the village. "What is that?" she asked. "The old carpenter's woodpile. It burned in the night." The cold that went through Amara's body had nothing to do with the morning air. Her father's woodpile, his stock of carved wood for the season's orders. The chairs, the cabinets, the things that kept them fed. "All of it," she whispered. Adrian turned to look at her. "I heard it started near the east corner, where the palm oil jars are stored." She did not move for a long moment. Then, quietly, carefully, she said, "Victoria moved the palm oil jars last week. She moved them to the east corner." He held her gaze. "I know. That was the morning everything shifted." Adrian had not come to the stream by accident. He had been in the forest the first morning because he was riding. That much was true, but he had been riding that specific path because he had been asked to by his senior advisor, a careful old man named Chief Banished, who had quietly brought him a matter that he described as a situation in a Mecca village that requires the eye of a prince, not the hand of a soldier. The matter was this. There was a man named Oak, a carpenter of some reputation, who was being quietly stripped of everything he owned by a woman his family believed to be his devoted wife. The mechanism was subtle. A dead here, a spoiled stock there, a rumor planted in the market that his wood was poor quality. One by one, the sources of Samuel's income were being closed, and the instrument used to close them was consistently traceable, if you looked carefully, connected to Victoria. What Chief Boniface did not tell Adrian, because he did not yet know, was that Victoria's plan extended beyond the carpenter's income. She had spent 3 years building toward a single moment. The day Samuel would be reduced enough, desperate enough, that he would sign over the land deed of the Okafar compound to her in exchange for relief from a debt she had secretly arranged for him to owe. The land. That was the object. Not Samuel, not Amara. Just the land beneath the mango tree and the house built on it. Adrian had found Amara before he'd found the evidence, but by the 8th morning, by the morning of the burning woodpile, he had found a document. He had found it folded inside a ledger at the office of the moneylender in the next town, pressed between pages that were not supposed to be pressed together. A letter. In Victoria's handwriting, he had confirmed this later by comparing it with a market receipt she had signed, directing the moneylender to begin collecting on a debt that Samuel had never actually incurred. A fabricated debt with a fabricated signature. He had sat with that letter for a long time. He had thought about going to the village elder immediately, about sending his advisor, about doing what princes were supposed to do. Act from a distance, move mechanisms, resolve the issue through appropriate channels. Then he had thought about Amara's face when she talked about her mother, about the cracked pot Victoria had sent her, about the way she sat on the grass instead of the rock beside him, not because she was being modest, but because years of careful cruelty had taught her to hold herself slightly apart from every good thing, as if good things were temporary, as if she were waiting for them to be taken. He had kept going to the stream. On the 9th morning, he brought Chief The old chief sat on a folding stool a respectful distance away, while Adrian introduced him to Amara. Boniface studied her with eyes that had seen 64 years of human behavior, and after 3 minutes of quiet conversation, he stood up and said, with great formality, "Young woman, your mother's name was Chidinma Okafor, daughter of the Okafor of Emeka, the same Okafor who was the boundary witness for the original land settlement of 1962. Amara stared at him. Yes, she was. That land, Boniface said, cannot be sold or transferred without the consent of a direct Okafor heir. You are the only direct heir. Silence. The stream ran on. What land? Amara asked. Boniface looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at the water. Your father is about to sign a deed, Adrian said quietly. Today. This afternoon, Victoria has arranged for the moneylender to visit your house with a debt notice and an offer. Sign the land over, and the debt disappears. The color left Amara's face. He doesn't know, she said. He doesn't know what the land is worth, Adrian confirmed. Victoria does. She has known from the beginning. How long? Amara's voice was very low and very flat. How long has she been planning this? 3 years, Boniface said, since the week she arrived. Amara was quiet for a moment, that stretched like held breath. Then she stood up. I need to get home, she said. Right now. She had been walking for 30 seconds when she stopped and turned back. She looked at Adrian with eyes that were trying to contain something enormous. Why are you helping me? He did not answer immediately. When he did, it was only 4 words. Because it is right. She looked at him for one more moment. Then she ran. She did not make it in time. Not entirely. When Amara arrived at the compound, the moneylender's boy was already at the gate, and through the open window of the main room she could hear Victoria's voice, smooth, persuasive, surgical, talking her father through the document. Samuel sat at the table with a pen in his hand, his shoulders rounded with a particular collapse of a man who believes he has no other choice. Papa, Amara said from the doorway. Every head turned. Victoria's eyes went sharp. Aaron made a small, involuntary gesture, as if she wanted to close the distance between herself and Samuel before Amara could reach him. Go to your room, Victoria Said. This is adult business. Papa, Amara said again, walking into the room. Do not sign that paper. Samuel blinked. He looked, for a moment, like a man surfacing from deep water, blinking into a light he hadn't seen in a while. The debt is real, Amara, he said. But his voice was uncertain. The figures... The debt is not real, Amara said. She had nothing in her hands. She had come with only her voice and the knowledge Adrian had given her, and she used them the way her mother used to use the stream, not to fight the current, but to find the way through. The debt was made up. There is a letter, Papa. A letter, in Victoria's handwriting, telling the moneylender to create it. Victoria stood up. That is a lie, she said. Her voice was perfectly steady. She is a jealous child, making up stories. There is also a law, Amara continued, still looking at her father. A boundary law. This land cannot be sold without my consent. I am Mama's heir. Mama was an Okafor heir. I did not consent to this. I will not consent. Samuel put the pen down. For one suspended moment, it seemed like it was over. Victoria's plan exposed. Her scheme collapsed. Samuel looked at the moneylender's boy and said, with a return of the quiet authority he had once possessed. "Come back another time. I need to speak with my daughter." The boy left. Amara exhaled. But Victoria did not look defeated. She looked, and this was the thing that Amara noticed, and that sent ice through her. Regardless of the victory, she looked like a person watching a chess game, and thinking 3 moves ahead. That evening, after Samuel had gone to his room and the house was quiet, Amara found a note slipped under her sleeping mat. "You have made an enemy of someone more powerful than a moneylender. Your father signs tomorrow, or I will make sure the village elder knows who has been meeting a strange man in the forest at dawn. Alone, for 11 days. Amara held the note. Her hands were steady, but her mind was already running. She sent word to Adrian through the miller's boy, who owed her a favor for a kindness she had done his younger sister the previous rainy season. The message was 3 words. Tomorrow. The compound. Adrian arrived at noon. He did not come alone. He came with Chief Boniface and 2 members of the palace guard in plain clothes, and a sealed letter from the district court bearing the stamp of the regional magistrate. The letter confirmed the land protection under ancestral boundary law and named Amara Okafair as the protected heir. It had been prepared, Adrian explained quietly to Amara at the gate. The previous evening. "You were ready," Amara said. "Chief Boniface was ready," Adrian said. "He has been building this case for 6 weeks." Then he looked at her with a steadiness that she was beginning to understand was not the stillness of a man with nothing to feel, but the stillness of a man who had chosen what to do with everything he felt. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," she said. They went inside. Victoria was in the main room. She had been expecting the moneylender's boy again. What she saw instead made her stand up from her chair very slowly, the way an animal stands when it senses something has gone wrong with the territory it thought it owned. "What is the meaning of this?" she said. Her voice was still controlled. Her eyes were doing rapid calculations. "Sit down, Victoria," Chief Boniface said, not unkindly. "We have some things to discuss." "I do not take orders from—" She stopped. Her eyes had found the palace guard, had found the royal ring on Adrian's right hand, had understood, with the particular intelligence of a woman who had spent years calculating power, exactly who was standing in her living room. "I sit," Adrian said, not unkindly either, but absolutely finally. What followed was not a shouting match. It was quieter than that, and therefore more devastating. Boniface placed the fabricated debt letter on the table. Victoria looked at it and said nothing. "Is this your handwriting?" Boniface asked. "I don't know what that is." Victoria sighed. "It matches the signature on this market receipt." Boniface sighed, placing the receipt beside it. "Your signature, dated the same month." Victoria's jaw tightened. "I am not a lawyer. I don't know how to." "The market woman who sold you the receipt has confirmed the signature," Boniface continued. "The moneylender's clerk has confirmed he received this letter. He believed it was authorized by you on behalf of your husband." "I acted in my husband's interest." "You fabricated his debt?" Amara said. Her voice was very quiet. "You burned his woodpile. You sent me to the stream with a broken pot, hoping your brother would come while I was gone, and my father would have no choice." Victoria's face did something complicated. Denial moved through it, and then calculation. And then, for the first time in 3 years, something that looked almost like exposure. "I did what was necessary," she said at last. The words came out with a kind of cold dignity, as if she had saved them for this moment. This village, this land, it should have gone to proper management. "Samuel is a good man, but a weak one. Without me, he would have lost everything anyway. He was losing everything because of you," Amara said. "I was protecting my daughters." "By destroying me," Amara said. "By trying to erase everything my mother left. By making my father believe he was failing when you were the one making him fail." The room was very quiet. Outside, a bird called once. The mango tree moved in the light breeze, its leaves making that particular dry season sound a whisper, a rustle, like an elder clearing their throat before speaking. Amara walked to the table. She picked up the fabricated debt letter. She held it in front of Victoria's face, not threateningly, but as evidence. as testimony, as the physical proof of 3 years of careful, sustained cruelty. "My mother planted that mango tree the year I was born," Amara said. Her voice was not shaking. It had the quality of the stream, constant, clear, moving forward. "She used to say that a tree does not fight the wind. It bends and bends and bends, and then the storm passes, and it is still standing. I have been bending for 3 years, Victoria, but I am still standing. And you," she continued, "are going to face what you have done. If this story is moving you, subscribe now to the ending will change how you see everything." The magistrate's letter was read aloud by Bon. The land transfer was void. The fabricated debt was void. A complaint had been formally filed with the district authorities. Samuel, who had been standing in the doorway since the middle of it all, pale, still, like a man slowly understanding the dimensions of the room he had been standing in for 3 years, said only one thing. He said, "Victoria, get out of my house." She was gone before evening. She did not go quietly. There was weeping, and the weeping of her daughters, and a great deal of noise that the neighbors pretended not to hear while hearing every word. But she went. She took what was hers. Her clothes, her cooking pots, the furniture she had brought from her previous house. She did not touch Chidinma's things, not because she had grown a conscience, but because Amara stood in the doorway of that room the entire time, and some confrontations are decided before they begin. In the weeks that followed, the district court completed its investigation. The moneylender's clerk testified in full. The market woman confirmed the signature. Victoria was charged with financial fraud and property deception, and was ordered to pay restitution equal to the value of the woodpile that had burned. Her brother, the wealthy man she had planned to marry to Amara, wanted nothing to do with the matter once the investigation became public. The compound stood. The mango tree stood. The land deed was confirmed in Amara's name, in trust alongside her father's, under the ancestral protection law. But the thing that the village talked about, the thing that became the story within the story, the thread that would be told and retold around fires for a long time after, was what happened at the stream on the 12th morning. Adrian came to the stream one last time. Not on horseback. On foot, alone, in plain clothes, with no ring on his finger, because he had left it at the palace deliberately, because he wanted, for a few minutes more, to be just a person at the edge of the water. Amara was already there. She had the good clay vessel he had given her. She had kept it even after everything, and she used it now without apology, because she had earned the right to keep good things. They sat in their usual positions, him on the rock, her on the grass, and for a while neither of them spoke. The stream ran. The light came through the canopy in silver threads. "You knew from the beginning," she said at last. "Who you were?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because I wanted you to talk to me," he said. "Not to the title." He paused. Was that wrong? She considered it. She considered it with the same careful attention she gave to everything, the way she listened to the stream, the way she touched the mango tree, the way she had endured 3 years of cruelty without letting it take the thing inside her that she refused to let be taken. "No," she said at last. "It was not wrong." He looked at her. The morning light was full now, warm and golden, and it fell across her face with the same democracy. It fell across everything, the roots, the stones, the water, the cracked rim of an old pot she had left at the edge of the stream long ago and never come back for. "I would like," he said carefully, "to speak with your father." Amara was quiet. "He is home," she said at last. They walked back through the forest together. Not running this time. Not urgent. Not afraid. Just walking, side by side, through the trees their grandmothers had probably walked through, on a path that the red earth had been keeping for them without knowing it. The mango tree was the first thing they saw when the compound came into view. It was in bloom that morning, a thing that only happened in the right conditions, in the right season, when the soil and the rain and the warmth agreed. White flowers, thousands of them, crowding every branch, filling the air with a sweetness that was not heavy but light, the kind of sweetness that makes you breathe deeper without meaning to. Samuel was sitting beneath it. He looked up as they approached. his carpenter's hands still in his lap, his face carrying that expression he had worn since Victoria left. Not quite grief, not quite relief, but the complicated emotion of a man who has woken up and is still counting what was lost and what remains. He looked at Adrian. He looked at the ring, back on his finger now, because some truths are too important to hide. He looked at his daughter. And Samuel O'Coffer, the quiet carpenter who had been silent for 3 years, said the truest thing he had said in all that time. "I should have seen it sooner. I should have protected you." Amara sat down beside him beneath the mango tree. She took his hand in both of hers. "The water does not remember yesterday, Papa," she said softly. The man who had been carved hollow by grief and filled with someone else's lies, he wept then, quietly, beneath the tree his wife had loved. And his daughter held his hand, and the prince stood at a respectful distance, looking at the bloom on the mango tree, understanding something he had never quite understood before about what it meant to have a home. 6 months later, the compound at Emeka looked different. Samuel's workshop had been rebuilt, larger than before, with a proper drying room for the wood and a small storefront facing the road, where people could come and see the work before commissioning it. His chairs were known in 3 villages now. A craftsman from the city had come to learn from him, which meant that, for the first time in a long time, Samuel Okafor was teaching again rather than merely surviving. He had stopped apologizing to Amara every morning, because she had asked him to. "I know, Papa," she had said once. "I know you are sorry. Now stop being sorry and just be here." And he was. He was at the table every morning, and his hands moved the way they used to, shaping things, making things, putting into wood the particular vocabulary of a man who had found his way back to himself. Victoria appeared before the district court in the 3rd month. Her 2 daughters, Esther and Ngozi, had remained in Emeka. They were not charged with anything, because they had been instruments of their mother's plan without full knowledge of its dimensions, and Amara had said, privately, that she bore them no hatred. Ngozi, the younger one, had come to the compound one evening with a cloth pressed to a chest and her eyes full of water, and Amara had opened the door and let her in without a word, because some debts are paid in the only currency that actually matters. Victoria was ordered to pay a restitution, and placed under 2 years of supervised community service. She did not come back to Emeka. She went to live with a cousin in the north, and the village did not miss her, though it did not celebrate her absence, either, because there is no honor in kicking a fallen thing. Amara went to the stream every morning. She went alone some mornings the way she had always gone, open palm against the mango tree first, bare feet on the path, the particular cold rush of the water over her fingers, and she went with company on other mornings. On one such morning, 6 months after the day, beneath the blooming tree, Adrian arrived at the stream and found Amara already there, and in her hands was a small piece of carved wood, not made by her, but given to her by her father, a small mango tree, carved with the precision of a man who had learned to put love into his work again. "He made it for the ceremony," Amara said, without turning around. "Then I should speak with him again," Adrian said. She turned then, and what was in her face was not quite the girl who had stood at the edge of this water with a cracked pot and braced herself against kindness. It was something more settled than that. Something that had found its roots. "He is expecting you," she said. The wedding was held at the end of the dry season, when the mango tree bloomed a second time, which the eldest woman in the village said she had never seen happen twice in 1 year, and which she declared, with the authority of her 81 years, to be a sign from the ancestors that this was right. It was a quiet ceremony by the standards of royalty. Adrian had insisted on that. The celebration was in the compound, under the tree, with food that the women of the village made together, and music that the children danced to until their feet were dusty. Samuel Okafor, the carpenter, walked his daughter across the red earth of the compound he had almost lost, under the tree his first wife had planted, and gave a hand to a prince who had taken it not because of land or title or calculation, but because he had met her at a stream in the early morning and found in her something that all the wealth in the kingdom could not manufacture, a person whole and clean and unbroken, who had endured the worst and kept the best. And Amara, who had been sent to the stream to disappear, had instead been found. The man who thought he had everything had come to the forest, looking for a few quiet minutes. Instead, he found what he had never been able to name in all the years of palaces and titles and decisions made from a distance. The particular peace of sitting beside a stream with a person you trust, drinking water from carved cups in the early light, before the world wakes up. The girl, who was sent away to be forgotten, became the one that history would remember. And the prince who found her at the stream learned that the most valuable things in this world are never found in palaces. They are found at the edge of rivers, at the feet of mango trees, in the quiet courage of people who keep their dignity when the world gives them every reason not to.